Focus Group. Arthur woke up groggy that morning, longing to stay in bed a bit longer, all day if he could. He reached to a small dish on his bedside table and fished out a wakefulness patch. Slowly, fumbling, he peeled the paper covering off the 1-inch square piece of baby blue fabric. He placed the sticky side of the patch on his neck, where one might feel for their pulse. A wave of energy immediately coursed through him, warming his body and cleansing him of any lingering tiredness. He took it off and tossed it and its wrapper toward the trash like a basketball player. It landed on the floor among half a dozen other missed attempts. Arthur sighed and heaved himself out of bed. Rachel, his sister and roommate, had despised the patches ever since they came out. "It's not normal," she'd say, "making yourself feel things with a pad on your neck." Arthur used them regularly. Rachel insisted it was because he worked too hard, but Arthur was always quick to point out with a smile that he was the only one bringing home a paycheck. Rachel had been unable to hold down a job for nearly a year, and the playful remark usually shut her up. Rachel loved his wittiness, and Arthur loved his sister more than anything, but she could see right through him. "You just put up that humorous facade to mask your tiredness. You're tired, Arthur. Stop worrying about me and relax for once." This had been going on for some months now, so Arthur finally let her convince him to take a weekend to himself. It wasn't as much Rachel that convinced him as it was the opportunity itself. Rachel had found an ad for a focus group online. It was for the testing of a new thought-mapping technology, and participants were to stay in a beautiful suburban hotel resort for the duration of the 3-day job for free in order to, according to the ad, keep the mind relaxed for the participants' safety and observability. Arthur agreed, of course, mostly to make Rachel happy, and partly because he really did need the rest. It was Thursday evening. Arthur was to spend 3 nights at the hotel, departing at dawn on Sunday morning. He need not bring any luggage. He turned down Ivory Road, through a stone arch with the words Ivory Resort carved across the top, in, fittingly, ivory. He'd tried to convince Rachel she didn't need to drive with him, but she'd insisted. She gazed out the passenger window as the massive hills of gardens and greenery scurried by. The sweet scent of spring blooms perfumed the air. The hotel was a tall, grand building seated atop a particularly green hill. Behind the building was a towering wall of lush hedges, concealing the entire southern wing of the resort. Arthur parked the car in the small lot at the base of the hill. He gave Rachel a long hug, then promised her he'd have fun away from work. Arthur climbed the broad, shallow stone steps up to the hill until all he could see of Rachel was her scarlet hair glimmering like fire in the sun. She wiggled her fingers at him. He gave her a playful salute. He hadn't put much thought into it lately, but he'd rarely been alone since Rachel moved in with him. It felt freeing, in a sense, to be finally rid of her. Of course, he wasn't looking forward to sharing his hotel visit with the other participants, but he didn't know them. He could avoid them because they weren't Rachel. He instantly felt guilty for thinking that way. He loved his sister more than anything. He pushed the thought out of his mind and turned back to the building in front of him. It was a small hotel, but not underwhelming by any standards. 5 towering stories of brick and sandstone expertly pieced together in a suburban masterpiece. It seemed more like a mansion than a resort. To the east, Arthur could see the vast gardens and meadows he'd just driven through. To the west, the hotel extended down the slope of the hill until it stopped at a beautiful formation of rocks jutting from the ground, spewing water into a stream that wrapped around the building to the hedge-ridden south. Arthur continued up the cobblestone path to a pair of dark, windowless, heavy doors. Tentatively, he pushed one open and stepped inside. It closed sturdily behind him as if it were sealing him in. Arthur took in the hotel. The interior was just as grand as the outside. Thick rose-red carpet and dark hardwood floors, open floor plan, winding white stairs, old wooden furniture, their luxurious fabric miraculously in pristine condition. And it was completely empty, devoid of life and dead silent. Confusion set in first as Arthur's eyes flicked rapidly about the scene, and they just managed to catch something before the confusion gave way to fear. A small pillow, as brilliantly red as the carpet, resting on the reception desk, a stark contrast against the rich mahogany surface. Atop the pillow was a white card rimmed with gold. The matching golden print read, "Focus group members report to conference room B, hallway on the right." Arthur checked his watch. 6:07. Wonderful, he muttered aloud. He was already late. He began walking past the reception desk. The carpet muffled his footsteps, and the hotel remained as eerily silent as ever. He brought himself to a brisk pace, then rounded the corner to the right of the hallway, nearly slamming into a man in the process. He took a step back. The man was dressed entirely in red, from the stiff cap atop his jet-black hair to the creaseless trousers and shoes. Arthur suspected that if the man were to lay on the floor, he would blend in almost perfectly with the carpet. A thin mustache lined his upper lip. "Sorry," Arthur said. "I was just heading toward—" "Ah, yes, the focus group," the man interrupted. "You're a bit late, so you missed this part, but you'll need this." He held out a familiar paper-wrapped square in his red glove. "What's the patch for?" asked Arthur, taking it from the man. It's for data collection. This particular patch will slightly alter your neurological signals so they can be picked up by our equipment for review. He smiled. Oh, don't worry, he said, noticing Arthur's doubtful expression. It's completely painless and temporary. You won't notice a thing, and it won't interfere with your daily brain activities. All right, but if you don't mind me asking, where is everyone? Isn't there supposed to be staff or other participants? I'm glad you asked. You and the other participants, they're in the conference room, will be providing the staff. While going about your day, you're bound to wish for something, and when that happens, we'll know about it. A half-staff member catered towards your exact needs will be sent to you, and they will provide what you wished for. Hold on, half-staff? What's... Oh, you'll find out soon enough. The members in the conference room are getting a more in-depth rundown, but unlike you, they've already used the patch. In fact, they should be released any second now. So, what do you say, Arthur? Put it on? What have I got to lose? Arthur said. He applied the patch to his neck. Just as the man had said, it was sensationless. Arthur looked down at his feet, realizing something. Hey, how do you know my... But he trailed off. The man was gone, as if he had sunken silently into the lush carpet. Okay, that's weird, he stuttered, then reached to take the patch off. Instead of the soft fabric, all he felt was flesh. It, too, had vanished. Arthur shook his head hard and started jogging down the hall. Nervous breathing cut through the silent building. Halfway down the hall were two doors. On the left, a door labeled A, and on the right, B. Arthur heaved open the heavy door to conference room B. He stood there in the doorway for a moment, taking in the room, the completely empty room. The lights were on, the various white cloth tables set with refreshments and pamphlets, but there were no people. He whipped around and threw open the door labeled A. It was an exact mirror of the first room, as if he'd opened the same door. He turned around and was about to call out when a violent splotch of red flashed across his vision. He yelped, then took a moment to look at what he now realized was a person. Her scarlet hair rested daintily on the shoulders of her red uniform, the same red uniform the man had been wearing. Rachel? What the hell are you... What are you doing here? What's going on? I am not Rachel, she said. I am the hotel staff. You wish to know more about your situation. I am here to fulfill that wish. Her voice was exactly like Rachel's, but the way she spoke... No, it spoke was smooth, silky, and calculated. Arthur took a shaky breath. You're that half-staff the guy told me about. Correct. But you're Rachel. How is... What did... He trailed off. I took on the appearance of your sister because your neurological signals indicate you miss her. Arthur said nothing, just stared. You are distressed. Is it the red? I can change it. In an instant her form rippled and distorted itself. The uniform's bright red blurred to a darker shade, making it seem like his sister was engulfed in blood, and when she became solid again, half a second later, she was dressed in the same clothes as when Arthur bade farewell to Rachel, the real Rachel, a black jacket with sky-blue shirt, blue jeans, and sneakers. Okay, that's disturbing, Arthur said, finally stabilizing, but unable to stop the nervous smile that crept across his cheeks. So, you're like a robot or something? You could say that. Now, you still wish for information, and your brain is now calm enough to process it. You wish to be alone for your stay at the hotel. You cannot see the other participants or interact with them, and they cannot interact with you. You do not have a specific room to stay in. You have free reign of the hotel so long as you stay on the property grounds. There is no staff. If you wish for anything, it will be provided, within reason, of course. Most goods and services found in other resorts are available here. You are safe. There is no danger. You may relax. Please, enjoy the hotel, Arthur. In order to not frighten you again, I will inform you now that once your wish is fulfilled, I will disapparate the next time I am out of your sight. Arthur furrowed his eyebrows. Cool, but next time could you maybe not look like my sister? It smiled Rachel's smile, giving Arthur a feeling like he'd been punched in the gut. Of course, I will take on the appearance of someone you are not acquainted with, it said, leaning toward him. Now, blink. What? Why would I... But Arthur had blinked, and it had vanished. So, fancy hotel to myself, huh? He said to himself. He talked to himself often. It helped him concentrate, but it drove Rachel crazy. He started back toward the lobby, then stopped at the base of the gorgeous set of marble stairs curving up to the second floor. He wondered what the upper levels were like, picturing more long, carpeted hallways with more suburban-style wood doors and countless rooms. It doesn't matter. Arthur jumped at the voice to his left. It was another woman in red, but not Rachel. It had listened to him after all. Jesus, stop doing that. Arthur composed himself. What's that mean, it doesn't matter? You wish to know if all the rooms were the same. It doesn't matter which one you choose. No matter which door you open, you will be taken to the same room. That's wonderful. Now, please don't appear when I don't want you here. The woman frowned. But you did wish for me. You wished for more information. Not consciously, though. Look, I don't... Okay, how about you only show up if I say out loud that I wish for something, alright? She furrowed her eyebrows. Nobody has requested that yet. I will do my best. I'm gonna blink now, or whatever, and you'll be gone, right? Correct? Okay. He sighed, blinked, and then he was alone again. He didn't get much sleep that night, and although the half-staff took some getting used to, by the next evening he was comfortable wishing aloud for things. Breakfast, popcorn, pillows, anything. What really surprised him were the rooms. What the half-staff had said was true. No matter which door he stepped through, he entered the same place, with the same rumpled sheets, the same slippers strewn across the floor, the same remote which he could never remember where he'd put. He'd wished for 2 more in just that afternoon. The next day, Saturday evening, he wished for dinner to be delivered to his room. It would be his last dinner at the hotel, as tomorrow he'd be driving home with Rachel, so he tried something new. Surprise me tonight, he told the half-staff woman. You can read my mind and stuff, so pick out something I might like. I cannot interpret specific thoughts, just general ideas and feelings based on brainwaves and body language. But if you allowed me to act without requiring audible command, I will see what I can do. Arthur said it was okay, and she vanished at his blink. A few minutes later, there was a knock on his door. The woman had brought him chocolate. Chocolate? For dinner? As much as Arthur would have loved to have chocolate for dinner, it wasn't exactly the type of thing people ate for a meal. You were disappointed, the half-staff said, frowning. I apologize. I will bring a new dish that may better fit your taste. Wait, But the door had already closed. Arthur opened it and stuck his head out into the hall. It was completely empty. He sighed. Apparently, he was waiting for a new dinner. And he did. He waited for almost an hour. He'd gotten agitated and a bit impatient, but he didn't call for her again. Another knock finally came to his door, and he answered it. There she was again. Arthur looked down at the metal tray she carried. She'd brought grilled cheese and creamy tomato soup. Steam rolled off the meal. You are agitated, she said. You are she said. Arthur looked up at her. Arthur looked. Scarlet hair greeted him. Perhaps displeased with the untimely manner of the meal. But Arthur cut her off. Why do you look like Rachel? I apologize for... Don't apologize. Tell me. I told you not to look like her. He was starting to get pissed. You are agitated. I wanted to comfort you with a more likable appearance. The system works best when the brain is at ease. Well, it's not working very well, is it? Just change back, Arthur grumbled, reaching for the tray of food as it began shifting forms. Be careful, it said. But Arthur had already grabbed the tray. It burned his hand and he jerked it away, flinging his hot dinner across the doorway and onto himself, burning him even more. Shit! He stumbled backwards, pulling at his tomato-soaked clothes. His foot caught the bed and he went down, hitting his head hard on the dresser. The half-staff darted toward him. It was Rachel again. It spoke quickly. You are agitated. You are in pain. You are angry. I will assist you. Don't touch me, he yelled, clutching his head. And get out of my sister's skin. Get me some ice. The half-staff stood rigid over Arthur. I will bring ice, it said. The system works best when the brain is at ease. Arthur blinked and it was gone. He rubbed his throbbing head, standing up. Son of a bitch. He checked his hand. No blood. That was good. Ice. It was back. Arthur stamped his foot. Do you mind not doing that? I swear to God, you're going to give me a heart attack. You were angry. It held the bag of ice in its hand. You are hurt. The system works best when the brain is at ease. Her form rippled. I will change my appearance for your comfort. No, stop, Arthur said. He was looking at Rachel again. Change back! It was stiff, rigid like plywood, the bag of ice still clutched in its hand. Only her mouth moved. You are agitated. You are hurt. Agitated. Take the ice. In an instant her arm rocketed outward, narrowly missing Arthur's face. The bag of ice flailed wildly in its hand. You are hurt. Take the ice. Can it, he snapped. Change back. He snatched at the bag of ice and yanked, but it was like trying to pull it out of concrete. He yanked again. It didn't move a millimeter. The system works best when the brain hurt. Agitated. You are agitated. The ice. Its voice was inhuman. Its form rippled, and it didn't stop. Arthur yanked at the bag once more. Hey! He couldn't find its eyes in its distorted physique. Do you hear me? What's happening? The system agitated. The ice. When the brain ease. Arthur planted his foot on its body. It was a puddle of water. His shoe sank an inch deep until it hit the hard concrete bottom. He pulled at the bag of ice. Let go! Don't fuck with me! You're not Rachel! He shouted. The plastic ripped, spilling ice about the floor, which Arthur then stumbled down to. The ice. It trailed off, and the rippling about its face stopped, solidifying into Rachel's. It twitched and turned at uneven, impossible angles as Rachel's voice filled the room. Arthur scurried away on his back until his head hit the wall. The system ice. You are hurt. When the brain ease. Agitated. Take the ice. You are hurt. The system works best. Stop. Arthur's hands went to his ears. Stop. He couldn't hear his own voice. Stop! He shut his eyes tight. Silence. There was complete silence in Arthur's hotel room. The staff was gone. Slowly, Arthur returned his hands to the ground. He was breathing heavily. He couldn't stop. He sat there, huddled against the wall for a few more seconds. His ears rang. Through his labored breathing he could begin to hear, ever so faintly, white noise like whispers. It was coming from behind him. He whipped around, stared at the wall. It was still behind him, getting louder, saying incomprehensible words. He turned again, stared at the dresser. The whispers weren't coming from behind him, but inside him. They washed against the inside of his skull like a sea. Waves crashed behind his eyes and his eardrums. He was sobbing now. "Get out of my head," he said out loud. The whispers only grew louder. "Get out of my head!" He pounded the tear-stained carpet with his fist. "Get out of my head!" He bolted upright and stumbled out of the room, breaking into a sprint in the hallway. He was surrounded by doors. The whispers grew louder still, and he could make out what they were saying now.
"The system."
Door after door swept past him as he raced down the hall to the stairs. He took them 3 at a time, then tripped and fell down the last 5.
"The system."
It pounded in his head, over and over, millions of voices whispering the same thing for eternity. They never stopped, would never stop. He heaved himself up. He was halfway across the lobby to the double doors he'd walked through what seemed like ages ago. The first doors. He was 10 paces away. 5, 3, 1. His hand gripped the brass knobs. The voices weren't whispering anymore. He turned to the knobs. Arthur threw them open. He stared through the double doorway. Only there weren't 2 doors anymore, just one. It led to his room.
"No matter which door you open, you always make it to the same room."
It was exactly the same. The tomato soup on the red carpet, ice dotting the floor, the dresser slightly skewed from his head-on collision with it. He slammed the door and screamed. There were 2 once again. "Arthur!" said an all-too-familiar voice from behind him. Rachel's body was no longer contorted, her voice back to normal. "The system works best when the brain is at ease. I took on the appearance of your sister to calm you." "Please," Arthur sobbed. "Just stop." "You are scared." "Please." "The system works best when the brain is at ease. I will assist you." "Please!" Arthur roared, charging his sister. He crashed into it, but when he landed on the carpet, there was nothing below him. Arthur lay there on the ground for seconds, then minutes, hours, maybe days or weeks. He didn't care. He wanted this to end. Racked with sobs, he allowed the deep red of the carpet to swallow his vision. "Arthur!" said an all-too-familiar voice from behind him. Rachel. She stood in the double doorway. The light of dawn peeked out from behind her. Green grass clashed with her scarlet hair. She was taunting him. He got up and charged her again. She screamed as she fell, hitting her head hard on the cobblestone path outside the Ivory Resort. Her eyes glazed over. A dark coat of rusty red began to spread out from beneath her hair. Arthur slammed his fist into her face. His knuckle burst open, spraying blood onto her face, mingling with her own. He hit her again. He hit her hard. He hit her until he felt the bones in his hand crack. Still he hit her again, and the sun had long since risen by the time Arthur collapsed from exhaustion next to his sister. The research team arrived to collect the bodies at precisely 2:30 p.m. Rachel Murray, aged 24, was scraped from the stone and poured into a trash bag at 2:46. Arthur Murray, aged 28, was heaved into the same bag at 2:51. A fragment of his sister's skull was found embedded in his throat. He had died of blood loss 1 hour and 17 minutes before the team arrived. The head of development, with his jet-black hair glimmering in the sun, noted various software issues on his clipboard, mainly concerning the CPU overload of the half-staff. On the next page, he crossed out the 11th name on the list, Arthur Murray. He read the 12th name to himself. "Nicole?" he said. "Yes, sir?" "Be sure the next ad reaches James Holland by Monday." "Yes, sir." The bodies were burned in the estate crematorium, south of the main building, and the ashes were scattered into the fields of wild red tulips that grew about the Ivory Resort. Okay, that's it. Please, I hope I don't have to record more later. This is torture.